Hi everyone, it's Ryan here. Welcome to my room, guys. I hope you're well today. Today we're going to talk about what INFJs think of INTJs. In this little new series, what INFJs think of. Okay, hopefully you will stick around for this. Before we proceed to discuss this thorny question, don't forget that I've written a book on the INFJ, the Ecstatic Soul, which you can get at the links below on Amazon. Less than $10, ebook or paperback. Check the reviews. There's more than 100 now. It's the deepest investigation that you'll have. And there'll be a sequel hopefully next year. There's also my book, The Infinite Castle, which is a novel. If you're into Dostoevsky, Camus, Kafka, Murakami, existentialism, modernism, and all these joyous things, and you'd like to support my channel, consider getting this book as well. Apparently main character is an INFJ, so. There's also a Patreon page that you can support, link below, really helps the channel, growing community there, so thank you so much to my supporters. I think that there are two main possible ways in which INFJs look at INTJs. And to a large extent, this is going to be determined by whether the INTJ is relatively, strong on TE as an auxiliary function, or whether they are strong on FI as a tertiary function. It's somewhat similar to, the way that INFJs are sometimes more NIFE type INFJs and sometimes are more NITI type INFJs, with the accepted consequence, of course, that if the INFJ is more so an NITI INFJ, then they're more likely to be introverted, double introverted as they're sometimes called. Similarly for INTJs, NIFI INTJs are going to be more introverted than NITE INTJs. Now, note the fact that an NITE INTJ could also have well-developed FI, but if they have well-developed TE, the TE will be more visible. I think, if you like, there's a relationship of either, right, of begrudging admiration, as for the NITE INTJ, or a relationship of a genuine connection and genuine aspiration, which has to do with the NIFI INTJ, although that is a possibly conflictual relationship as well. Remember, this is from the perspective of the INFJ. So what these two possible perspectives have in common is that they are seen from the perspective of sharing NI dominance, and the fact that INFJs and INTJs share an NI dominance means that there is going to be an intimate sense of connection between the two, the sense that both types experience the world fundamentally in similar ways. Of course, the fact that there is this closeness brings, I don't want to necessarily to say a sense of competition, but it brings into even starker relief the sense of the contrast once we get into the lower functions than the dominant. So you start from the point of view of being brothers or sisters or cousins, and then looking at the differences. The begrudging admiration, I think, that the INFJ can feel towards the NITE INTJ has to do with the fact that, if you like, on the one hand, the INFJ can find it difficult to resonate with the INTJ's use of TE. It will come across to the INFJ as much more clinical, much colder, much less emphasized on the needs of others than the INFJ's NIFE, right? There will be something that will strike the INFJ as somehow mechanical about it. But at the same time, a level of admiration, because the fact that the INTJ can use TE allows them to negotiate existential alienation in a way that the INFJ finds very difficult to negotiate. And this is something that, in fact, I discuss in the first few chapters of my book, how the INTJ, as opposed to the INFJ, negotiates the condition of fundamental alienation that comes from NI dominance and SC inferior. So there is an ability to be effective and not hampered by internal conflictual emotions that the INTJ displays, that the INFJ does admire at some level. there's this ability to implement the NI vision for the INTJ, or the NI prescience for the INTJ, that is not available as immediately to the INFJ. INFJ has to vocationally circle around, getting people on board, always negotiating the presence of people around them much more than the INTJ does. So there's a relationship of begrudging admiration. Admiration because of this ability for the INTJ to implement their prescience more effectively, more quickly, but at the same time begrudging because of this sense of more mechanistic clinicality sometimes, whether that's accurate or not, okay? Now, the case of the NIFI INTJ, seen from the perspective of the INFJ, is also interesting because it's conflictual, and at the same time there's a real sense of inspiration that can come to the INFJ from observing an NIFI INTJ. So the sense of inspiration is the fact that, if you like, the fact that F is so influential in the vision and prescience of the INFJ means that you have to negotiate with other people, you have to cooperate with other people, you have to vocationally interact with other people. So you have to take a lot, other people into account a huge amount. That is one of the strengths of the INFJ, certainly. And it is even more the case for the ENFJ, by the way. However, at the same time, the INFJ is crucially aware of the fact that means that there's going to have to be compromises with these other people. You have to meet them halfway in some way or other. And so in some way, there's going to have to be some compromises with the deep ethical convictions and motivations of the INFJ. The compromises don't have to amount to a complete breakup of your convictions. You would, be demolished, and that's not what you want to do, but there will be an element of, at the boundaries of what's acceptable and not. There'll be negotiation and a sense that is felt by the INFJ that the sacrifice is involved at some level. And when they observe the NIFI INTJ, what they notice is that not only is the INTJ not willing to make those sacrifices in any way, usually, there's no compromise with what's ethically fundamental, but that the INTJ is able to live with that, is able to proceed with that, is able to not be harried by moral quandaries as a result of that, or quandaries about what they should be doing. That is linked to the moral autonomy of FI, which is not existent in the case of FE. FE has its own strengths, but nevertheless, when the INFJ looks at that, there is a sense of being inspired to moral autonomy, that they cannot and they should not be pressured to imitate, because that's not who they are, but there's a sense in which you ought to preserve your ethical autonomy as much as possible, even if you have to enter into FE compromises. And looking at the case of an NI cousin that is NIFI and is able to live with autonomy at this ethical moral level is inspiring. The conflict, of course, can come from the fact that the INFJ is still going to feel like sometimes you really ought to be taking into account these other people around you and make compromises so that you can proceed forward. And again, the INTJ may come across as more selfish or more unfeeling towards those demands made by other people that should be the case, and that could, in some sense, irk the INFJ. So there's always going to be this conflict between, why are you being so autonomously self-reliant to the point of egoism, and at the same time, I could really be learning something from it on the part of the INFJ. So again, just to summarize, to finish, about the NIT INTJ, the INFJ feels begrudging admiration. And when it comes to the NIFI INTJ, I would say that there is a sense of strong inspiration mixed with a possibly conflictual background. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget that you can support me on Patreon. Let's continue the conversation. And if you like this video and if you agree, then we'll continue making videos about the other types as well from the same perspective. Okay, see you soon, guys. Bye-bye.